ground, because she's the kind of person that when there's a fork in the road, she just kind of goes straight, you know, and just goes right there and everything. And I remember thinking, well, we're going to work together, we're going to figure something out. And I'm just so impressed with her will to do good, you know, and take what God gave her and then convert that into something, manifest something great. So it's an honor. Thank you. It's a privilege to be here. Fran, thank you so much for opening up to us, and
My
the
pleasure.
security guard and the whole work.
I'm going to be homeless tomorrow, but it's okay. I'll be out there on the 15th.
You know, if you drive a couple hours north, when she said I'm 30, 40 minutes out, I thought to myself, she's in Mesquite, so I just drove down to Mesquite. But I didn't picture she was 40 minutes out past the location, right? Anyhow, to the veterans, thank you so much for what you guys do and all the things that you do for our country and things that sometimes we take for granted. So thank you so much. Well, I'm here. I don't want to take up much time, but whenever I get in a setting like this, I tend to just listen and just kind of go and try to create value. So it doesn't have to be in and out, hit and run. It doesn't have to be wham bam. It could be whatever we want it to be. In the end, I'll share with you what Uforia science is, but hopefully in the end you'll feel moved and inspired. I think motivation is a good word. I just think it's for the uninspired. Truly. When you're inspired, you don't need motivation. And how many moms do we have in the room here today? You know, when a mom steps up for her child, there's no motivation needed. You know, they're just inspired. They go, get out of the way. When we step into our purpose and our dreams, we illuminate who we really are, and we don't need to be motivated. It's when we're separated from our dreams that we're seeking motivation. Think about it. Children, they're inspired. They never doubt their dreams. They dream big. You ask a child what they want to be when they grow up, and they say anything because they can. It's not till they listen to us, watch the media, that first breakdown in friendship, that first love relationship gone bad, that first misfire on the job, whatever it is, one day we all wake up and go, huh? And then the smile lines start converting to frown lines to a certain extent. And there are certain cultures around the world that have predominant frown lines. Truth. I've been there. It's a weird thing, okay? So one day we wake up and we're suffering from what I call dream separation. And when I talk about dreams, we're not talking Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy. We're talking about your loving and intimate relationships. We're talking about your physical well-being. We're talking about your money and your career. We're talking about your communities. Stop complaining about our community and get out there and do something about it. And then most important, we're talking about a spiritual aspect, something bigger than you so you don't get in the way. And so those are the dreams that innately children just, they have. They just show up in a room and a child owns the room. That's just how kids are. And what happens is one day we wake up and we're separated from our dreams, and the prices that are paid during this time are frightening. Think about it. Think about your own life when perhaps, even still today, you're separated from your dreams and the prices that are paid. Because you know what? This is self-worth.
Is that
This is not.
$29.90?
And we think, oh, people with a high self-worth were raised with the silver spoon. They're a certain color, they're a certain profession, they're a certain height, they're a certain weight, they look. No. Self-worth is nothing more than merely just stepping into who you truly are. That anything other than who you are is a form of sadness. Who you truly are and owning that is a form, it's life-giving. It's life-giving.
Fran,
When you're...
What?
Was that the bird?
What's he talking about?
I thought the bird was calling you. The bird is pretty awesome. Fran, shut him down, Fran. But I'm really passionate about this conversation as much or more than I am about actually Uforia science, because the crux of this conversation is that we're 99% identical. We are. We belong together. It's not anything other than a brother and sisterhood that is 99.1% identical. And I find comfort in that. I sit here today thinking that way, so I can feel comfortable with you today. Some people like the 99% too much, you know, so they blend. And they blend so well they become invisible. And when you're invisible, you're not a mirror. And when you're not a mirror, you're not a teacher, and you deny the world you. So the 99% could be a little bit too luring, but it's a beautiful concept to know that we're that identical. Then it's that 1%. That 1% is knowing that there never has been or never will be someone as beautiful and as unique as you, ever. And sometimes we just forget. And it's the awkward you, it's the quirky you, it's the talented you, it's the brilliant you, it's the you that scares you a little bit sometimes. It's the you that worries what society will think of that side of you. But to me, that's the most beautiful part of who each of us are. It's that difference maker. It's that thing that inspires and liberates the rest of us to be who we are and develop our talents. If God gives us talents, then we make them a skill. And there's a lot of people who die riddled with talent and no skill. So I feel like that Uforia science is designed to illuminate that point, and nothing illuminates that point more than DNA. You know, here's the thing, I've been on this path for 14 years talking just exactly the way I've been sharing with you today. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call, and I've worked in this profession now for, I don't want to tell you how old I am, but for 27 years I'm an old guy kind of. I have little kids. I don't know what the heck I'm thinking, but I've done this a long time, and I've seen a lot of health trends. And folks, if there was anything that was not a trend, it would be your health. Your health is as timeless as the sky is blue. I got tired of the hype. I got tired of my herbs were grown higher on the mountain than your herbs. I got tired that my super juice has a higher ORAC antioxidant, or my coffee has more fungus than your coffee.
Yes.
And the latest one is my lavender kicks your lavender. Who fights over lavender? But somehow we found a way to do it. I used to be the CEO of the largest essential oil company in the world. I know this too well. I think oils have become an invitation to lie. Tell me why your lavender is better than his. Seriously, usually they're the same growers. You know, that's what's so funny about all this. So I got tired of that. I couldn't poker face that anymore for me. I couldn't be a Me Too company. I couldn't do it in the name of a dollar. I had to do it in the name of integrity and timelessness. Timeless principles of health and timeless principles of humanity. So I retired. I ran a company for about 17 years. It was in every country except for North Korea and Cuba. And so I've seen the world, and I've been very blessed to just realize that we are 99.1% identical. We all want the same things. You know, we belong together. My kids are small, and so about 2.5 years ago, I was getting on airplanes. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this before. You have. She's a former flight attendant. But I was getting on airplanes after running the company for 16, 17 years, and I have these small kids. And when the plane was taking off, I didn't want to leave. You know, you just, and when that lands in your belly, it sucks to go in the air. And I realized it was time for me to be more of a dad and less of a dollar. And I gave a 6-month exit strategy, and I stepped down. I spent the last 2 years in my kids' classrooms, which I freaking loved it. I coached their football, baseball, basketball, and my whole life growing up was all about competing and playing sports. Didn't matter what it was. If it had a ball, I was in. And best couple years of my adult life. And then I received a call from a gentleman who I would say is the LeBron of our profession. He's out of Dallas, Texas. His name is Terry LaCour. And Terry's a very sharp. I used to think that he had all this success and that he had all these cronies. I used to think that because perception kind of looked like that until I met him and worked with him. Man, is he a bright dude. He's bright, he's humble, he's hardworking, he makes decisions in 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, that's just how he rolls. And when you're with him, you're like, wow, I love this, you know. I love how he operates. And he called and said, hey, Ron, and by the way, he's the #1 guy in terms of back-end logistics for a profession. And he calls me and says, hey, Ron, I got this technology that's screaming your name. And when he says that, it's different, you know. I'm like, okay, I'm really curious. So I fly out there, and during my time off, I got called on every CBD company. I got called on every cryptocurrency company. Look, I don't mind diversifying, but I'm not going to raise my family in that sort of uncertainty or that kind of dilution. You know, there's 100 CBD companies starting a day right now, okay? It's kind of hard when you become a Me Too company by default. You end up in hype, By default, you end up in desperation. By default, you end up kind of over-promissory. Not that you started out that way, but you ended up that way because you're trying to distinguish yourself from your market twins, okay? So I just don't want to do that anymore. So I go out there and I get to Dallas and he says, hey Ron, here's what we're going to do. We bought 2 labs. These are medical grade labs. They are HIPAA compliant, which means for the professionals, everything is held confidential. Vicki understands that. And we cannot sell or share your information. In fact, it's a felony if we did. They're CLIA certified, and CLIA means a certain quality standard, world-class kind of a quality standard. So they're big boy labs, and they specialize in DNA. Now you have to understand, I was like listening, and it was just, all this was going over my head the first time. So I didn't fully understand it, but I understood the human conversation of this. And so finally, he says, in addition to that, we purchased a software. Now this part is the most valuable piece of Uforia science. The software was written by a bunch of giddy scientists for the last 24 years as they studied nutrigenomics, which is the study of DNA and nutrition together. 24 years they were writing the software. Now, if you ask me, they probably spent about 20 years too long, but if you know scientists, they never stop. They just keep, we're never done. That's just how they work, right? So we pulled it away and said, we're buying this from you, and we purchased it. And this is spectacular. Here's why. When your DNA goes, they test through a swab, not blood, nothing, just a swab. They test kind of the dashboard of your health, your DNA. Your DNA never changes from infant to elderly. They test what we call the dashboard, and then they run it through this software, and that software tunes into the algorithm of each of you and then produces your name and a barcode. The reason for the barcode is so that everything is in code language. No one can ever figure out what or who or anything what this is. For all they know, it's a candy bar, right? They have no idea. It goes to the machine that we built and engineered on. This is really sounds too good to be true, but I'm just here to tell you, it's tangible. It goes from that software to a machine that you scan the barcode, and it runs this beautiful experience. It drops nearly 100 plant-based, peer-reviewed studied ingredients into one formula called Utrition. And the theory is that there's no 2 test results alike. Therefore, there's no 2 formulas alike. It'll make about 400 million unique formulas. One is yours. Kind of cool, okay? And when it's running, you can get it in powder or veggie caps. I get mine in powder because I just throw it in a smoothie. But you get your name on there, the barcode right there as I mentioned, which means these can't be sold on Amazon. No one's going to be, nobody wants to look like you, right? But if LeBron does submit his DNA, I'm going to be pinching his formula. But here's the deal. It's called Utrition. And while your formula is being made, folks, it's not just dropping little powder and then heavy marketing. No, they're dropping clinical doses into your formula based on the peer-reviewed studies. This is the part that freaks me out still. What I'm used to is when we run a batch of product, we run 200,000 units. 200,000, right? And then we pull a sample and we quarantine it. Here, this is a batch. So we have to pull a sample from every single bottle, every single month, and put it in quarantine with a lot number so that if you got sick, we can pull that sample out, test it, and make sure we didn't make you sick. So that's how extreme Uforia science is.
It's amazing.
And so, I feel really like, just so you all know, really blessed, really humbled by this. And hopefully you can sense in my heart that I'm kind of going, man, I'm kind of weaving through this with you, kind of, because it's that special. When somebody gets their, by the way, I skipped one part. When it goes through that software, it sends you via email, confidential, a 35-page DNA report. Anybody get their DNA report here? Anybody have one with them? Somebody go get it. I want to show what they look like. So you can, I'm not going to go through it, but I'm just going to show you one page that tells you.
5 reds.
You got 5 reds?
Me too.
Of all people.
Me too.
I wasn't going to say anything.
I said it.
But the
So you
Edwina,
get your
Edwina.
supplement facts, so you'll know.
okay, here.
Yeah. You get your supplement facts for your formula. And by the way, it's so specific for you to the microgram. That's how cool this is, okay? I was in a meeting in Scottsdale about a month ago, and one guy gets up and he goes, I have 92 ingredients. The next lady got up, she goes, I have 68. This person got up and had 73, and I was like, man, this is so cool.
It is.
And so here's what it looks like when it comes back. We decided not to get into fraternity just because we didn't want somebody to go, wait a minute, you're not my dad? We didn't want any of that. It turned into a Jerry Springer show. So we're like, we're not going to touch that. So what we do is this. These are the 8, this is the dashboard I referred to. This is kind of your heart, your brain, your bone density, vitamin D absorption, fat cells, all those kinds of things. It tells you what you got from mom, what you got from dad, or what you got from both, or what you got from neither. If it's green, you didn't get it from either. It's called a genetic variance. That's what it's called. Now, I don't want to get all technical because I don't want to bore you, but a genetic variance is this. These are called actionable genes, which means at some point in your life, they can express themselves.
That's an actionable gene expressing itself.
That's my phone. I have my phone. Sorry. So here's what it means, folks. Let me give you an example without making like a cancer claim or something. Let's just say mom gets a wart on her nose. She has a genetic disposition that's a wart on the nose. I'm making all this up. Dad has a genetic disposition that gets a wart on the nose eventually, right? And throughout their lives, they kind of go no wart on their nose. And one day, just kind of that gene expresses itself, and boom, the wart shows up on their nose. You find out that you get a red with the wart on the nose, and then you're like, ah! So what this is designed to do is to kind of fill the gaps of your DNA so that that expression, let sleeping giants sleep, kind of a thing. So here is a genetic test. The reds mean you got it from both parents, green means you got it from neither, and yellow means you got it from one of your parents. So based on this criteria and nearly 100 plant-based ingredients, the formula makes to the machine makes to the software, makes to the microgram your own formula made specifically for you. And again, these are all peer-reviewed studied ingredients. There's no stretching of anything, it's just very scientifically bulletproof. So this is how it looks. So what that means is that Uforia Science is the one